Hello, this is John Thompson, the superintendent for the New Haven Unified School District, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to meet Zetha Nobles, who's our Director of Equity, Access, and Achievement, but we're also going to have a conversation about one of our initiatives that we launched earlier this year, but the next phase is coming up, which is our N-word initiative, and so that we'll learn more about that and what you can expect as families and staff and whoever else might be listening about what's coming next. So with that, I'm going to slide over and I'm going to ask Ms. Nobles to come in and we'll start our conversation. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Glad you're here. So why don't we start with a little bit about you? How long have you worked here and what's your current role?
Okay. So this is year 3. Beginning of year 3, I'm the Director for Equity, Access, and Achievement. It's been a wonderful time in New Haven.
All right. Well, that's your current role. What did you do before?
Well, I've been in education for 30 years. I started after I graduated from Howard University. I started teaching in Prince George's County. And then I decided I wanted to go back to school. So I came back to California, where I'm from, born and raised. Oakland is my city. So I grew up in Oakland, but I came back from Howard, came to Berkeley, and I started working in West Contra Costa as a teacher as well. And then I became a TOSA, so I really understand the TOSA well, the politics, the work pretty well, because I was a TOSA. I was a TOSA, and then from that I became an assistant principal at Hayward Unified, and then I was in San Jose for several years as a principal of Horseman International Baccalaureate, which gave me some credibility and possibility to go overseas. So I moved overseas. I lived in Kuwait for about 3 years, where I was an elementary principal for the Kuwait royal families at Al Bayan School. And then I became an assistant superintendent at Dasman's bilingual school in Kuwait. And then I had the really cool opportunity to move to Dubai, and I was a founding superintendent for Renaissance School in Dubai.
Wow. Pandemic
came. Daddy said, bring your little self back to California or back to the U.S. So that's what brought me back here.
Right, and then you were in Oakland after that as a principal?
Yeah, I was in Oakland as a principal for about a year.
Yeah, that's right, and then we were able to get you down here.
Thank you.
No, it was good. It's been a good ride. There's been a lot that's happened, and we'll touch on that coming up. Yeah. So, did you always want to be in education when you were growing up? What did you want to do when you were?
When I was a little kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian. I just loved animals, and I was always a little bit shy, so I felt like I'm this nature girl. I could talk to the animals and collect animals, and anywhere I went, animals would kind of fall in love with me. So I wanted to be a veterinarian. And then as I got a little bit older, I kind of tapped into, I think, my parents' spirit. My father is a professor at San Francisco State. My mom was an educator in West Contra Costa. So I think that was my destiny, to be in education. And even as a little kid loving animals, I thought I would be teaching my teddy bears how to read and teaching my friends, who were struggling, always tutoring, always trying to learn and help others learn too. So yeah, I've always wanted to be in education since I was a little one.
And I think you have horses now, is that right? Or no, your family has?
My parents had horses.
Had horses, okay.
Yeah, and my parents left California a few years ago, moved to Texas. My dad always told a story about his Texas family, which was a joke to our family. He's got the California family and then this Texas family that never existed, but he always teased us about it. So I said, yeah, Daddy, you called up Texas. So now my parents are living in Texas, and they had a couple of horses. So yeah, I love to ride, and one day when I retire, I plan to have a couple of horses here.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, currently you're in charge of the Department of Equity, Access, and Achievement, which is directly related to our first strategic plan that we finished that, and we have a new strategic plan. But our goal too is very similar, and the Equity, Access, and Achievement Department and work continues. But a lot of people might not know what that is. So we kind of started a bit of this journey together. Yeah. And so why don't you share how the Equity Access Achievement Department came together and where it is now and what it does.
Sure. So from my understanding, before I came here, there was a lot of influence from other families There were issues going on in the district where some of the parent communities felt like they were being neglected and their children weren't being honored, and they really pushed for this position. So that's the message that I got. So I think I happened to be in a good place at the right time. And when I started here, I was told you're going to have 5 teachers on special assignment. I was like, great. It's hard to do this work alone. You really need a team. And then before I signed on the dotted line, they said you're going to have 10 teachers on special assignment and 1 placed at each of the elementary, middle, and high schools, which I think was really powerful because having someone in the school on the ground and then having them come and meet together on a regular basis, we can really kind of find out what's going on in the schools, what some of the gaps are, and how the team can really go in and help support and improve relationships. And coming off of the pandemic and me being new to the district, also hearing a lot about a lot of people feeling some harm related to the strike. Our first part of the work we were doing was trying to help build and strengthen healthy relationships in the district. And one of the things I love so much about New Haven is that New Haven is really an ideal family district. Everyone I speak to, they had a cousin that went to Logan or a daughter who went to Alvarado. So it's really a family district. So my thinking was we're going to tap into that family love, that family relationships to really start supporting our kids to improve relationships amongst the adults so we can then improve relationships between adults and children. And that's where the part about dignity came in.
Right. And currently, this is really, and to your point, this work that started, that's now formalized into equity, access, and achievement, is really the extension of work by many before us. Yeah. I mean, James Logan High School has. I mean, you know, you can talk about Manny Allen and and I don't know if you want to touch on that, and you can probably touch on that as we're moving forward.
Sure.
But let's shift to one of the big initiatives right now that we started was the Dignity and Belonging Initiative.
Sure.
And what that means, I mean, it translates to everything from in-classroom visits to broader work with bigger communities. Why don't you touch on that, and then we'll get into the N-word piece.
Sure. So Mikey McKelvey, one of the directors of instruction, when I started the job, she gave me the book, Cultivating Belonging Through a Culture of Dignity by John Cronapple. And as I read it, I was getting really excited about the work because we were thinking about, you know, as a team, how do we build relationships? And one of the best ways to build relationships is to honor each other's dignity. Dignity meaning your inherent value and worth. And sometimes we mix up dignity and respect. And you see that in the classrooms a lot where teachers feel like they weren't respected or a child feels like they weren't respected. And what's really happening is they're feeling like they're not being valued and they're feeling like they're not worthy. So having that book in our hand, we started really kind of doing a deep dive district-wide with all of our administrators, reading the book together. We contracted with John Cronapple to come and do some work around dignity amongst the district administrators. And then we tried dipping into the Logan High and Connolly around working with dignity ambassadors. So we're starting to send this message and develop our young people to understand how important it is to honor each other's dignity, and which means their inherent value and worth. So we're still there where we're really trying to work on dignity. And I jokingly talk about it being, how do we tap into our humanity? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we become like these robots. We get up in the morning, we go to work, we come home. We get up in the morning, we go to work, we come home. And we're not tapping into the healing. Really, it is healing work when you're talking about dignity and inherent value and worth and love. It's healing work. And when you're talking about a district that came off of the pandemic and also came from a strike, there's been some harm done. A lot of folks are feeling that, and our students feel that. So we're really working on changing that energy to one where we're working on honoring each other, which I think is really important.
And you can see some of that work happening now. One of the things that we're starting, it started last year, but this year is expanding, is really trying to it's great to talk about it, but is it happening in the classrooms? Do our teachers feel comfortable? Do our students feel comfortable? And really doing what we call equity walks, going through and gathering data, not about any person individually, but just in aggregate about it, whether or not this is working and our foundational work around dignity and belonging is taking effect and making a difference for our students and our staff. One of the things, and this is where we'll shift over, that we have, you and I, and it started before you got here, that we were repeatedly hearing about and was impeding our work in this area, was the use of the N-word. And when I was growing up, if you said the N-word, I mean, you just didn't do that. It was an absolute, that was probably out of any word in the English language, that was the one word you could never say. And it was never used. But things have changed. And you can blame it on media or song lyrics or whatever, but the students feel a lot more comfortable using that word in a casual context, in a way that is oftentimes used as a word of greeting or slang, not in its racist context, but it's created a lot of issues because regardless of how you say it, it's rooted in racism. It's rooted in a terrible historical marginalization and crimes against African American and Black people in our country, and it is, regardless of what the intention is when it's being used, it's creating harm. It's preventing us from, every time we take 2 steps forward with our dignity and belonging work, this gets dragged up and brought back. So this was something we've been wrestling with for a while. And why don't you, Zetha, if you don't mind, just kind of starting, because you started this work and it's caught on in a way that's becoming quite interesting, and we'll get to what's happening next with us coming up. But why don't you share pick it up from there and talk about what happened.
So one, I want to first really thank you for, pushing this forward with me, because it really couldn't happen without your vision and seeing that this is work that we need to be doing. So I wanted to start by thanking you. And also want to give credit where credit is due. And I know that Dorothy Allen, Manny Allen's mom, Manny Allen, our life skills, African American history, African American issues, and ethnic studies teacher, her mom really was trying initially to do something about this N-word initiative. And when I first started working on it at Logan, I connected with Jesse Garrett as well, and he had told me that he had been working on it as well and teaching some of his students about the word. But for us in this era, in the equity, access, and achievement era of New Haven, this conversation really started in a parking lot with D3A, and D3A feeling that the N-word had been weaponized against a lot of African American kids in the district. And it's really a controversial word that, right now we're in this era, like you said, with the hip hop music, using it. You find it in music, you find it in movies, you find it everywhere, and it's really become normalized. So after the conversation with the parents, that was about 3 years ago, we said we have to figure out what we're going to do about this, because it becomes a matter of protecting our African American kids. And there's controversy in that too, because many of our African American kids feel, it's just a cool word. It kind of means like, hey friend, or what's up bruh. But there's so much history of dehumanization in the word. So as we're building this initiative around belonging and dignity, the N-word really kind of mantles a lot of our building up of dignity and belonging, and then you have this N-word, which is a dehumanizing language. And I understand how many Black families use the word in their homes and in other places, but our goal has been to get it out of our schools, right? Because many people don't know what to do with it when they hear it. So our conversation here was, there are many words that are in the English language that we don't allow in our schools. And many different families use different language in their homes, and that's fine. But in our school home, in our schoolhouse, we want to make it a place where all children feel a sense of belonging and that their dignity is being honored. And the history of that word really prevents their dignity from being honored. So what we did, we decided to not just involve New Haven in this work. One of my colleagues, Misty Guzman, and I sat down thinking, what can we do to get a collaborative effort around this work? How can we normalize collaboration? So we did a presentation at CASA. CASA is the California African American Superintendents and Administrators Conference. And we called it the N-word, What to Do About It, a Love Offering. And our love offering were resources, slide decks. We did a lesson with Logan High School students. We did a workshop with IVC staff. We did workshops with Connolly staff and really trying to get people to understand the history behind the word and how really dehumanizing it is, because most of our students don't learn that. It's not a course that you take as a part of history. So a lot of our students are learning about the N-word when they hear it on the music and they're bopping their hands to it. And we know that's all cool, but they're not learning how vile the word is. And so many of our African-American students, especially in elementary, have been going home complaining to their parents that the word is being used, they're being called it. And those children don't know what to do, but they know it's not okay. And then a lot of our staff now have to determine, was it used in a nice way, was it not used in a nice way, and that takes a lot of time, and it evokes a lot of pain for a lot of people who have to do this investigative work. And our position is, let's get it out of the schools. So we had this conference with CASA, and from CASA, over 40 school districts in the state of California started emailing me and Misty Guzman asking for our slides, the love offering. And we were able to share it with them. And from that, we started a relationship working with Hayward Unified on this. And then Castro Valley started working with us. And then Pleasanton started working with us. And now we're looking at how we're working with the county offices, really about protecting African American kids so this word isn't weaponized against them. And no one else as well. We don't want it in our schools.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's a great synopsis. So where that brings us now is next week or later this week, we're going to be sending out more materials to parents, to families, so you get a better idea of what we're asking. We're going to ask parents and students to commit to not using the word in our schools. We're going to ask staff to start addressing it. And our approach when we talk about addressing it, first of all, we understand that staff needs tools, they need resources, they need to know they have support. But our approach is not going to be punitive for. Obviously, if it's used in a racist context, that's something completely different. We're talking about when we hear it used in a casual context, how do we address it? What do we do? If you're a staff member and you hear it, what do you do? As a family member or a student, what can you expect? And trying to take an educational approach and a restorative approach to this rather than making it a punitive thing. So that you can look forward to that. We're going to start dropping these materials earlier this year. In September, we had the board change our non-discrimination policy. We had the board pass a resolution committing to this work. And the next phase is coming next, whereas parents, you're going to get information and resources. Staff, we're going to get you material, educate you on what you can do, how to do it, and how to go about it, so we can move forward together. And why don't you share a little bit, and then I'll kind of close it up with kind of at the superintendent's level. You mentioned that we're working, it's a multi-district approach, and where that is. But in terms of what staff and parents and students can expect later this week.
Sure.
You want to touch on that?
Sure. So the things we're working on now, we have the resolution, like you said. We have updated our anti-discriminatory policy, which are really good because it gives us some teeth to make sure we are actualizing the resolution and the policy. Right now, we've created a resources and guidelines document that includes some history. It also includes a copy of the resolution, a copy of a student compact. The student compact, we're digitizing it. So we're sending parents a letter saying you can expect your students to be asked to complete this compact. It's a QR code. The kids click the QR code. They go in. This is my name. I agree not to use the word. For the high school and middle school levels, for the younger students, we're looking at posters. So each class will take a pledge together not to use the word. And then there'll be posters posted around campus just as a reminder. We also really recognize this is new. This is a new thing. This is groundbreaking, and we understand kids. So we understand that when you say, no, you can't use it, we expect to get more use of it. But as we start this initiative, we really want our families and our community to be in support of what we're doing. We're trying to support our African-American community, our families. And it's not just the African-American communities that use it. In fact, in our district, we have a small number of African-American families, but we hear the word everywhere from a lot of different families, and we want to curtail that so all students feel that their dignity is honored and that they can belong to our district. So you should expect to receive. We'll be sending out a copy of the N-word resolution. We'll be sending out a copy of the compact. You'll see what the posters look like as well. And my hope is that if anyone has any questions or concerns, don't sit on that. Send me an email, reach out, let's talk about it, because this is a community effort. It's groundbreaking, it's bold, it's something that's new and different, but we believe it's the right thing for our community. And thinking about those 40 different districts that emailed me, this is really the right thing for our state and our country. And our hope is that we continue to grow this initiative to a place where that word is not used in our schools.
And as Zetha mentioned, this is something, it's across Alameda County. There's a core group of superintendents and staff that have been working towards this. Mostly Zetha and her colleagues developing the materials with the support of the superintendents. And she'll be presenting, it's the first week of November. She'll be presenting to all of the superintendents in Alameda County later this week. And it's moving forward collaboratively across the county. We're all in slightly different stages, but we're really hoping that this catches on and that it becomes normalized to not use this word in a casual context in our schools. Yeah. So that's where we're at. And that's, as Zetha mentioned, groundbreaking. It really is. There's no other place that we know of that's doing this work, but it's the right thing. And that's the direction we're heading. Again, building on a lot of work from a lot of people, Jesse, Manny, and others, the Racial Justice Committee at Logan and some of our teachers at Alvarado, and it goes on and on. But we're really hoping to bring all of that together and move forward together around this work. Yeah. All right. Well, with that, why don't we close it out? This is not a 40 questions episode, but let's learn a little more about you. So let's start with this. If you could have lunch with anyone, who would it be?
Initially, I thought Bob Marley. I believe Bob Marley's real goal in the world was to make more love. He did that in a lot of ways. And a revolution around love. And I really believe that our work as human beings should be to love each other. And if it takes a revolution for all of us to love each other, then I'm down with that. So maybe Bob Marley, I can get some energy and thinking about his lyrics and how, the world changed because of Bob Marley. And even now, almost 30 years after his death, we still sing, his music. And anywhere you go in the world, there's something to do with Bob Marley everywhere around the world. So I'd love to sit down with him and talk about, how he was able to do that. And I believe he just kind of rode the vibrations of love. So, yeah.
Social Marley. Justice through love and dignity. That's definitely, that's a great approach. That's great. All right. How about one thing people don't know about you?
I've been an open book for a long time. What do people not know about me? I don't know. I'm vegetarian, vegan. I've been a vegan since I was 14 years old. So I'm about a little more than 30 years. I haven't eaten meat or chocolate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now that's just crazy. No chocolate. All right. How about 3 things you can't live without?
Unfortunately, my iPhone. I don't know what to do without my iPhone. Water. I have to have water all the time. And love. I love love, and I love to be surrounded by love. You'll hear me say I'm a lover, not a fighter, and I mean that. I like to be surrounded in love.
All right. We see that in your work.
Thank you.
So, best advice you'd give your teenage self?
The best advice I would give my teenage self is to know thyself. Know who you are, know whose you are, know what your purpose is in this life. And if you don't, focus on you. I think teenagers get distracted by so many things, especially now. Social media is such a huge distraction. Focus on yourself. Achieve your goals. And oftentimes you hear people say, I'm going to do me. And that's seen as a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. You should do you. Focus on you, focus on your dreams, and focus on your goals. It took me to probably 30 before I started recognizing how powerful and important that is. So if I had heard that at 13, oh yeah, focus on you, know thyself.
Great advice. All right. Well, with that, we're going to close out today's session, something a little different. And you've got a little bit about Ms. Nobles here and a lot about our initiatives coming up. So thank you for your time and
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.